Coming to you live from deep within an icy, radioactive wasteland, we are the survivors of the social justice zombie apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against the zombie herds with Rantzerker number 44. Lift her up because she's just a girl.
It's zombie herds again.
We're now live. Sorry, I didn't realize.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
Oh, that's okay. It's pretty typical here.
It's the zombie herds, though, Allison. Zombie herds again, not hordes, but herds.
I know. I decided to switch it to herds. Because.
Well, they're like sheep zombies.
Yeah. They're gumming you, those sheep zombies. Oh goodness. All right. So, shall we get stuck in, or?
Yes, I think we should just get stuck in with this fucking.
Or should we let Ceara deal with whatever's going on her end?
Sorry, my mom just came home and something's going on with the internet bill. It's just.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's just she's just like totally not respecting your need to do things, and all of that. I get that all the time. My boyfriend tends to like call right in the middle of a live stream. It drives me, like, he knows. I always tell him, I'm on a live stream at this time today, don't call, and he'll call. So, all right.
Yeah, your significant others, they never respect what you're, well, not never.
Well, it's not that he doesn't respect it, it's just that he forgets, so.
Oh, yeah. That would probably be me, actually.
Me too. All right, so I'm just going to start the video. Everybody can see it?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Indeed.
You must have.
Okay, so these are true stories, apparently.
Well, excellent.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they can't be cherry-picked as well.
I agree, and it doesn't mean that they have anything to do with being, specifically with being a girl, so,
Well, you also have to think how many of them are actually true, because I know for a fact that a lot of the feminists that I hung out with in college would literally make up stories just to try to push the narrative. So they can claim the stories are true, but you never know how many of them are actually true.
Yeah, I imagine that it's going to be light on corroborating evidence.
Yeah, by light you mean like sort of cosmic dust.
Yeah.
Floating in a, you know, in a nebula somewhere.
You must have enticed him in some way.
You must have enticed him in some way. That's the.
People don't talk like that. I don't know why they think people talk like this. They don't talk like this. People don't walk up to a girl who's been assaulted and be like, oh, well, you were asking for it. You must have enticed him. People don't say things like that. I don't know where they get this idea that people talk like that.
Well, maybe there are some people who do, like more conservative religious cultures, not to put blame on them, but they may have a little bit more of a stock in the idea that women should be and act chastely in order to not incite the aggressive instincts of the male, which is its own can of worms, but like...
Well, I think most of those sort of fundamentalist religious communities, they're geared towards not just women doing these things to prevent themselves from being raped, but they're just essentially, nobody should be having sex unless they're married. Period. End of story. Whatever the circumstances, right? You should not be doing this. So yeah, you don't want to lead boys on. You don't want boys to be taking advantage of girls. You don't want any of that, right? You don't want girls to be taking advantage of boys. You don't want anybody doing any heavy petting. You just want to like clamp down on any kind of extramarital sex whatsoever.
Well, but let's apply the feminist standard when it comes to let's say that the allegation is towards a man of of ethnic background, what would they say to a woman who said, "Oh, I was sexually assaulted by this man"? What would they say to her? Would they question it?
Well,
Would they call her a racist?
Well, they certainly didn't question it back in the day. Back in the day when Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton were saying, if black men get the vote before women do, what will become of our poor, our innocent white daughters? Because black men will be walking around with rights and shit, and they'll just be raping everywhere. That's essentially one of the arguments that they used. Also that black men were morally less responsible than white women.
I'm actually referring to the stuff that's happening in the wake of Cologne. Regardless of the specifics of the instance, you can point out that feminists seem to have different standards of evidence when it comes to European women and men who are not, are of immigrant status. And so I wonder...
But I can actually give them credit for that. Or I'm not maybe give them credit for that as far as their motivations go, but I do think that when you have allegations of sexual misconduct that occur across a tribal barrier where there's a threat narrative already in existence, as there is with Muslim immigration, as there was with blacks having rights in the U.S., all of those things, right? There were threat narratives going on there that would make it very, very easy for a white woman, particularly a young, attractive white woman, to make an accusation and have it stick, and have people act on it outside the bounds of the law. And so I think that essentially, if it's because it's so easy for people to knee-jerk their way in the presence of an existing threat narrative into just believing without evidence, just on the basis of the existing narrative. I think that it does bear it does behoove you to be more careful in those types of cases than you otherwise might be, as far as trust but verify, right?
Okay, I'm gonna rebut that. First of all, the situation with, for example, Muslim immigrants from war-torn areas, and possibly considering the West to be an enemy, is less the situation with black people wanting their rights, and more of a situation of dealing with an antagonistic culture that has developed this idea of war culture. So this idea that the enemy deserves to not just be slaughtered but raped, etc. So in that case, you could see that when feminists are saying, listen and believe when it's a woman accusing a white man, but oh no, that can't possibly be the case when it's a woman accusing an immigrant from a culture that it may be a situation where he's been damaged because he's part of a war-torn culture. Or it could be because he's damaged because of local customs that ignore sexual abuse of boys, and it could also be that he's damaged. Plus, he's been told that the women of the enemy are fair game. They don't do the listen and believe anymore. No. Even though the likelihood of rape is greater in that instance.
It is absolutely greater across those tribal lines, 100%. But at the same time, the likelihood, I think, of people acting on things without verification.
No, I agree. But it does show that their entire approach to this is entirely political in nature.
Yeah, it is.
So it's listen and believe unless it's against my political ideology. In which case, what'd you do to incite him? What'd you do to incite him? This is from a feminist.
That was from the mayor of Cologne. Just dress modestly, ladies.
Yeah, stop inciting him.
So, well, is she a feminist, though, the mayor of Cologne?
No idea, but...
I think she's some sort of progressive, though.
There was very, very little backlash from feminists. There were no slut walks over her comments.
That's astounding.
It's incredibly ironic, yeah.
From right-wing media.
Yeah, it's essentially the same thing, except, it happened, I think, in Toronto. The police commissioner or whatever said, don't dress slutty if you don't want to get harassment. It wasn't rape, I don't think, from what I've read, it wasn't rape that he was said. Just don't dress slutty if you don't want to be harassed, which seems to make perfect sense to me. If you don't want sexual attention, don't dress like your bar is open. But that was misconstrued or something into the whole fucking world erupted into slut walks because of this one guy. But the mayor of Cologne says, yeah, ladies, if you don't want to be raped, don't dress just a little more modestly. Well, and where are the slut rocks?
The one guy too. He was just he wasn't a police commissioner. He wasn't high up. He was like he was just a detective or something like that. And he prefaced his statements with, "I'm not supposed to say this." So this is not an institutional attitude. This is not a systemic attitude. This is just maybe based on his own personal observations of women coming in and complaining that they've been victimized. You know, that there may have been a pattern that he'd noticed in his personal anecdotal experience, right? If you don't want to be victimized, don't dress like sluts, right? But I'm not supposed to say that. This is not okay for me to say, is essentially what he said. So the slut walk, the whole slut walk thing was protesting institutionalized systemic slut shaming, when in reality it was one cop speaking who said that this is not the attitude of the system or the institution I work for. This is my attitude.
Oh, anyway.
Well, I mean, that's how it is, though. It seems like no matter what, feminists have this idea that everybody's a collective. You know, if one man says something, all men must think that way, or something. If one person says a sexist thing, the entire system must be set up to be this way. It's like I can't comprehend thinking that way, but you know, just it's obvious by the way they talk. Like, oh, Anita Sarkeesian points out one instance in a video game where something looks kind of sexist, and suddenly all of gaming is sexist.
Yeah, and if you criticize her work, you're criticizing all women. Right?
It cracks me up.
Oh God.
Banana.
All right, banana. We're moving on.
Wait. I'm gonna just announce a law. Feminists, if it doesn't apply to minority men, if you don't want it to apply to minority men, then it doesn't apply to any men. So if you are going to say something, if you're going to just let the mayor of Cologne say to women, dress more modestly, or you're enticing rape, but not allow like a police guy in Canada to say the same, then you've lost the moral high ground. Either care about listen, believe, or don't.
Yeah, and any moral consistency whatsoever. But then feminists were never much for universality.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
So, all right, moving along.
You brought it on yourself.
You know what? Sometimes you do actually bring things on yourself. I keep getting reminded of this time that my younger stepson was telling me about what something that he had done. He'd come up to visit. His foot was all bandaged up, and here's what he had done. I think he was 8 years old, 10 years old at the time. He was wearing rubber boots, Wellingtons, right? And he and his brother, older brother, 4 years older, were playing on a fallen tree on the acreage they lived on. And there was a big an extremely, probably like 4-inch long, seriously heavy-duty nail sticking up out of this fallen log. And so he stands on it on the end of it with his rubber boots on, and he's looking at his brother. He's like, look at how my boots are so awesome. Look at this. Look at what I can do, right? And then he starts doing pirouettes on the sharp end of this nail.
Oh.
Yeah, and then it ends up going all the way through his foot.
Oh my Lord.
And the top of his boot, and of course, you know, he starts screaming, and then he looks at his brother and he says, "Why did you let me do that?" Right?
Like he was supposed to stop him or something.
Yeah, no, like sometimes you do bring things on yourself. Like our actions can have consequences. It's the most interesting concept. And sometimes when people do dumb things that are sort of guaranteed to make you be victimized. Like, I live in a bad neighborhood. I know that. I'm not going to leave my front door wide open and leave my house, right, for 2 hours and expect everything to be exactly where it was when I get back.
Yeah, people in my circle of friends, even people who aren't like crazy feminists, will get on to me about saying, well, if you go to a party alone with people you don't know, like you don't know anybody there, and you go to this random party that in a place that you've never been before, no one there knows you, no one there cares about you, and you get trashed off your ass and then you pass out. Yeah, it's not your fault if some guy comes along and rapes you, but you're responsible for the actions that led up to that.
Well, yeah, no, and you're also you're not responsible if somebody shaves one of your eyebrows off and draws a dick on your face in magic marker either, right? Because that happens to a lot of people when they pass out at parties, stuff like that. Somebody writing on your forehead, fuck what or whatever, right? Somebody writing with magic marker on your lower back, enter here with an arrow pointing down to your butt. All kinds of things happen to people when they get like super drunk and pass out at parties. Their iPhones get stolen. They have pictures taken of them in embarrassing positions. Somebody puts their hand in warm water so they pee themselves. All kinds of stuff happens when you pass out because you're too drunk around people that you can't trust. Not just rape.
Yeah, and they'll hold you responsible for getting that trashed if someone draws a dick on your face. But as soon as a guy comes along and rapes a girl while she's passed out, suddenly oh, it's her getting drunk, that wasn't her fault, blah blah blah, and it's like yeah, it kind of.
Well, I mean, it isn't her fault that she was victimized, but I mean, to pretend that her behavior had nothing to do with it. I mean,
yeah, and that's always the claim that oh yeah, she should be able to get as drunk as she wants and nobody rape her. And it's like, well, yeah, she should be able to do that, but should and can are very different things. No one should have to deal with being raped, but people are going to deal with it because the world's cruel and there's nasty people. So instead of just expecting nasty people not to be nasty, you should try to protect yourself. But that's victim blaming, apparently.
Yeah, but only when it comes to sexual assault.
Yeah.
Right? Only when it comes to that. Not when it comes to locking your door, not when it comes to locking your car, not when it comes to locking up your bike, not when it comes to using anti-theft devices like the club on your steering wheel, not when it comes to keeping track of your bank statements, to make sure nobody's stolen your identity, not when it comes to not clicking on links that appear in unsolicited emails, not when it comes to people who phone you and say, we can offer you a better a better interest rate on your credit card. Just give us the number of your credit card and we'll get you all set up, right? Not when it comes to any of those things, right? Just when it comes to sexual assault. And it's pre-victim blaming. It's like pre-crime. It's like Minority Report. Pre-crime shit. We're pre-victim blaming by recommending that women do things in order to do specific things in order to avoid being victimized. We are pre-victim blaming. We are blaming them before they have even become victims, right? As opposed to the real thing, like if I left my front door unlocked, I just forgot, I was careless, right? And my house was ransacked and a bunch of shit was missing, right? I would not appreciate, right? I'm already fucking blaming myself, okay? I already am, and I would not appreciate hearing from my neighbor, well, what the fuck did you expect was going to happen? Leave your door unlocked, what the fuck, right? Yeah, no, I don't want to hear that, because I'm already telling myself that, okay? But people don't do that, right? After someone's been victimized. Almost never happens. What they do is they say, oh, don't forget to lock your door.
Yeah.
before you are victimized. But like with pre-crime, right, the pre-victim blaming, before somebody's been victimized, right, that only applies as pre-victim blaming rather than just, good advice, only applies in terms of sexual assault against women.
Well, they seem to think that telling someone how to protect themselves is holding them responsible for the actual act going down. Like if you tell somebody how to protect themselves from being raped, if they actually do get raped, oh, well, it's your fault because you didn't try hard enough to protect yourself. Yeah, and but that's not how it works.
I mean, it's insane because, people tell you all the time to protect yourself from car theft, to protect yourself from identity theft, to protect yourself from fraud, to protect yourself from phishing scams, to protect yourself from computer viruses, to protect yourself from all of these things, right? All of these ways that you can be victimized by somebody with ill intent who is 100% responsible for their own actions, right? And it would not be your fault if you fell for their scam or freaking were careless or whatever, right? Would not be your fault. They are guilty of the crime that they committed, right? We are still expected to protect ourselves from those things, but the moment that you say, oh, and by the way, oh, and you can protect yourself from mugging, and protect yourself from being robbed, and protect yourself from being assaulted, right? But the moment sex enters into it, then it's not okay to talk about precautionary measures at all, 100%, totally just victim blaming. It's fucking annoying. So
it doesn't make any sense. It's never made sense. But I argued in my latest video because feminists they claim to want to protect women's feelings so much, like they want to make it so victims don't blame themselves because society's just going to blame them, so they're going to feel guilty and blah blah blah. But it seems to me that if someone is taught beforehand how to protect themselves, how to stop rape from happening, if they take every single precautionary measure that they know how to take, and the rape happens anyway, well, yeah, they're still going to feel guilty, but they might feel less guilty because they did everything they possibly could to prevent it. And
if you maintain a sense of agency through any sort of assault or trauma, if you have some sense that you tried, right, that you tried to stop it, you will blame yourself less.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but that just seems like that's how it would work. So it seems like feminists telling people not to teach women how to protect themselves is kind of counterproductive to what they claim to want to do. They want to alleviate guilt, but then they want to stop people from learning how to protect themselves, which would in the end alleviate guilt. Well, at least a little bit.
Well, it alleviate the possibility of being raped, which I think is the most important part of all of this, but apparently they don't. I've had this argument.
One of the things, too, is anytime you experience a trauma, you're always going to be asking yourself all of those questions. What did I do leading up to what happened that I could do differently in the future so that it doesn't happen again? That your brain will force you to learn that lesson.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the people with no lesson to learn, right? It's the people who were essentially struck by lightning on a clear day while sitting on the couch in their living room, right? It's those people who often end up agoraphobic, crippled by anxiety, can't leave their house, whatever, because there really was nothing that they could do, and so there's therefore nothing they can do. And I think this is one of the reasons why we want to impose, or humans have a history of wanting to impose agency where it doesn't exist, that it's the will of God, right? And that there is something, the tornado hit my home because God was mad at me, because at least that gives you an option for some kind of future way of being that gives you a sense that you have some control over whether that's going to happen again or not, right? And it's an illusion, right? But it's one that allows you to get on with your life. It's one that allows you to get on with your day. It gives you a way of being in the world without feeling like there's some disaster around every single corner, right? It's the people who are unable to actually say, okay, there's something I can do different in the future, right? So that this doesn't happen to me again, right? It's those people who end up completely crippled by what happened to them. on sort of a psychological and emotional level, and they don't recover, or they have a much longer, much more arduous recovery from that trauma because of that, because of the helplessness that they feel. There was nothing they could do, therefore there's nothing they ever can do, right? So when you have feminists actually promoting the narrative that there's nothing you can do, right? And I have actually seen feminists, I've talked to feminists early on Reddit. I talked to one, God, I forget what her username was, but she essentially said, there's nothing you can do. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's like a lottery. If you're going to be raped, you're going to be raped. There's nothing you can do. And she was housebound. She was housebound, had never been raped, right? But was so terrified of the fact that she'd been convinced that it was such a random thing, that there was nothing that she could possibly do that would prevent it from happening. When her number comes up, it's up, right? And she's getting it, that she was housebound. Like, this is not a healthy way to think. This is not a healthy way to believe. This is not a healthy way to see the world. You can't cope with a world where every single fucking thing is a random fucking disaster just waiting to drop out of the fucking sky and onto you. People can't live like that.
Mm-mm. It's probably similar to how whenever I was in college, I was so indoctrinated into this feminist ideology, you know, all this fear mongering. I was convinced that anytime I stepped out, you know, to go somewhere, that I needed to bring my mace with me because there was a freaking rapist hiding in every bush around the corner. Like I had to walk to the health department to get my birth control shot every month, and I would carry my mace in my hand with me because I was so freaking scared that some guy was going to jump out of a van or something and drag me in because of how crazy the indoctrination is, how crazy the fear-mongering is. But man, at least I was willing to go outside. That woman, she sounds like she was a lot worse off than me.
Yeah, no, it was a very, very long discussion I had with her. I think it was on the Feminism subreddit before I think I got banned. I might be unbanned, but I don't know. But yeah, we had a very long conversation, and she just seemed it was so sad to me that she's living with this kind of fear and just reluctance to go out and embrace the world, and this terror that, you know, it's inevitable, right? And not only is it inevitable, it is unsurvivable. It is something that would that there's no recovering from, right? That's how she seemed to view it. The idea of being sexually assaulted. So
what if she thought that if a woman was raped that she'd just never recover from it, that there's just no life after that?
It's life-changing, life-altering. It changes you forever. There's no coming back from it. There's no bouncing back. There's no ability to ever truly get over it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all of this stuff. And so it like essentially it's like she's walking, every time she leaves her house, she's thinking that a piano is going to fall on her and snap her spine in two. That's it's just going to drop out of the sky without warning, snap her spine in two, and leave her paraplegic.
Jesus.
Sort of metaphorically. And no matter what she does, no matter whether she's careful, no matter whether she's aware of her surroundings, no matter how strong she is, that piano's coming for her. So
that's horrifying. That's horrifying to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
So, anyhow, are we moving on, Alison?
Banana.
Banana. Okay.
You're not ugly enough to be as smart as you are.
You don't look smart enough to have anybody say that to you, lady.
Who? What? I've never even heard anything remotely similar to that ever in my life. Where do they get this stuff? Where are they hearing these things? Are they even hearing these things, or is this just? I don't understand. You're not ugly enough to be as smart as you are?
It's essentially there's a stereotype that very smart people look like Bill Gates. But particularly in women, also in men, but particularly in women, intelligence is correlated with physical attractiveness. So you're actually, if you're good looking as a woman, you're more likely to be smart than if you're extremely unattractive. And that's because the good looking women can attract, for the last 10,000 years have been able to attract the smartest men. Right? And have kids with the smartest men. So, I mean, it's essentially, and women have been getting better looking, getting more and more of the just on average, the physical traits that men find attractive in women, women are getting better looking compared to the rate at which men are getting better looking, because men have men's criteria for what they're attracted to in women is a little bit more focused on looks than it is for women's criteria for what they find attractive in men. Often they'll find a really rich, ugly guy to be somebody that they're willing to, or whatever. So it's definitely, but in women especially, intelligence is correlated with good looks. So not only is that stereotype something that I don't hear too much, it may be like you're too pretty to have to be smart. It might be that JCPenney t-shirt that got pulled off the shelves after feminists freaked out. I'm too pretty to do homework, so I make my brother do it for me. That doesn't mean that she's not smart. In fact, it means she's smart enough to get somebody else to do her homework for her.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, how about we banana, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hide your success so your man doesn't feel intimidated by you.
Well, maybe that means just be polite about, don't brag.
Well, yeah, it's like no one likes someone who's full of themselves. So if you're going around and trying to make yourself look so much better than your husband, well, yeah, he's not going to like that. I mean, nobody likes that.
One of the interesting things, and I think that this is maybe where this, because most stereotypes have some kind of basis in some kind of reality, that men may feel intimidated when their wives become extremely successful because of the different attitudes men and women hold when it comes to being breadwinners. If you look at millionaire men, right, a millionaire man is, 80% of them or more are willing to marry a much lower earning woman to support her even if she doesn't work, all of those things, and he will share the benefits of, in terms of participating in the lifestyle that he can afford with his wife, even if she does not earn a dime, right? Even if she just stays at home, he's willing to take care of her. He's willing to bring her to all of the events and parties and all of that stuff, and she participates fully in his lifestyle and in his social status, right? Women, on the other hand, millionaire women, overwhelmingly, hypergamy, you would think, and like a lot of the research on hypergamy, the prediction is that as women earn more, their hypergamy will decrease. No, as women earn more, they are actually become more hypergamous. They are actually more intensely focused on getting a man who is at least as successful as they are, or more successful than they are, and they are not willing to subsidize a non-working or lower-earning husband's lifestyle and his participation in her life. She wants a man who can participate in her lifestyle and in her social status, but who finances it himself. She does not want to finance that. And you even see this in working-class couples and middle-class couples, and how the financial decisions tend to be made. When the man is the sole or the primary breadwinner, the financial decisions for the couple tend to be split 50-50, right? When it is the woman who is the sole or the primary breadwinner, she controls 80% of the spending. She controls that. She has the veto power. She is the person, issuing fiats and edicts from on high. She controls the purse strings. If she earns the money, she controls the purse strings. And so when you look at the position that puts men in, right, that my wife resents me, right? My wife doesn't see me as an equal partner. My wife doesn't give me an equal say in financial decisions. My wife, who is the sole breadwinner or the primary breadwinner or earns more money than me, right? She does not see me anymore as an equal partner, right? So maybe there is something to that, but maybe it's not because of men's prejudices and men's behaviors. Maybe it's because of how their wives behave when their wives earn more than them or are more successful than them.
Hadn't thought of that. You think so? Why do you think that is exactly? You think maybe it's got something to do with our biological drives, where women seek out men who are, I don't know, maybe powerful is the wrong word, but seek out
the status.
Yeah, men of higher status. But by nature we do that, and it's men's nature to want to take care of women, so they're less bothered by a woman who's not lesser but less successful than them. Think maybe that might be it.
I think that, hypergamy is not like, there's no moral judgment in discussing hypergamy. It's not like a flaw of female nature or anything like that. It really amounts to women put in so many calories by necessity and so much risk, physical risk, and engage in extreme, putting themselves into a position of extreme vulnerability when it comes to having children. So if, say, I earn $20,000 a year and I can support myself on $20,000 a year, right? But if I have a kid, right, and I'm not going to be earning for a year, not going to be, back up to earning $20,000 a year, and now it's not just me, it's me and my kid, right? So I need a man who can do more than take care of himself, right? Who can do more than take care of me while I'm laid up. He has to be able to take care of not just one person, but 3 people, right, while I'm laid up from having a kid. That's just how hypergamy works. That's why women seek out men with higher status. It's why women seek out men with more access to resources than they have. And so essentially, I think that because of the way that this has worked for such a long time, for anywhere from 2 to 6 million years, if you go back far enough, to our first sexual revolution, where women began choosing invested fatherhood in their mates over just the best genes and the alpha male, women started making the choice of men who were willing to invest in them and their children. And that gradually displaced the whole alpha male phenomenon and made our form of egalitarian monogamy super unique in the animal kingdom. But you essentially have this thing that's been going on for so long, and men have also for so long they've seen their role in reproduction as being one of providing resources, that's to their wives, to their children, providing the backup, providing, being the guy who can take care of 3 people and not just one, right? And so if your partner, number one, if she can actually out-earn you, right, that kind of undermines your whole role in that, right? It makes it so that you're not necessary anymore on those terms, right? And then on top of that, if she makes you feel inadequate over it, right? If she does things, says things, if she doesn't treat you as an equal partner, if she's like, yeah, no, here's your allowance, and you don't have access to the bank account, and I'm going to make all of the decisions on where the money goes, right? But here you can have your PIN money, honey. It's going to hit a man in a different way than it would hit a woman if she was being put in that position, right? It's going to hit at his role a little bit harder, because his role is essentially that he's supposed to be the one who can provide for everybody while she's off for a year, giving birth and breastfeeding and not bringing in any income. So I mean, it's a very, very, some of it's probably some of that feeling of not being adequate is probably there in the man, even if the woman doesn't rub his nose in it, but women are more than happy to rub men's noses in it when they're the sole or primary breadwinner, at least in terms of not considering them equal partners.
Yay. Banana.
Okay.
You only got that grade because you're a girl.
Yeah, probably.
Yep. Statistics bear that out.
Oh.
I just uploaded a video yesterday where I talked about how female teachers in primary school and male and female instructors in universities grade boys down and women up depending on the name at the top of the fucking paper. You did only get that grade because you're a girl. Probably.
It's entirely possible. Girls get special treatment in all kinds of other places. It wouldn't surprise me if they get special treatment in their grades too.
They do. There's been multiple studies across multiple countries, Canada, the United States, the UK, showing that female teachers grade, if they have identical work in front of them, right? And there's either a female name or a male name or no name at the top of the paper. And if a female teacher in primary school sees a boy's name, she marks the paper down. If she sees a girl's name, she marks the paper up. If she sees no name, she marks it neutral.
Wow.
Yeah, and that bias is in male and female instructors by university.
All right, so there you go. Statistically, you most likely did get the grade because you were a girl.
Yeah, and the boy got the shitty grade because he was a boy. There you go.
That's so interesting. What's interesting is that they're admitting to evidence of systematic bias against boys as systematic bias against girls.
Well, I don't think that they're admitting to systematic bias. I think they're claiming that this is like a completely empty accusation, that there's no merit to it, that there's no evidence behind it, there's nothing to it. It's just, oh yeah, no, it's just because you're a girl, right? That you got that grade, and that she's saying, I earned it. She's not saying, okay, I admit there's a bias and I did get the grade because I'm a girl. I'm being accused of being favored because I'm a girl when I haven't been favored because I'm a girl, right? So they're not admitting to anything. It's just funny because, there is so much evidence that this is the case, that girls get a bonus and boys get a penalty. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this isn't like stereotype threat. It's not like stereotype threat where essentially you have a girl who performs better if she doesn't put her name on the top of the paper than if she does. No, it's essentially it's the evaluators looking at the same work and evaluating it more or less, deviations from the gender-blinded standard.
So it is institutional discrimination by teachers against boys.
Yeah.
Or at least, a bias towards girls. But let's banana this sucker.
Okay.
Put on a little lipstick, honey. Girls don't.
Go ahead, Karen.
I get that. I get to put on a little lipstick, or why don't you put on a little makeup? Or the other day, one of the most recent videos uploaded, they were saying, you're wearing makeup in this one, I can tell, right? And no, I haven't worn makeup in over a year, but Yeah.
These complaints are so fucking petty.
I know, it's like, whatever. Put on a little lipstick, who cares, right?
How about things that men are told?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you're
Try
gonna be
shape.
you're gonna be drafted. Don't have a choice. You know, put your future on hold to go potentially get blown up or have a part of your body blown off. That's something that men are told. How about, no, you weren't raped,
Oh,
or
how about you weren't mutilated?
yeah, you
That's
weren't mutilated. The doctor just took a knife to your genitals, but that's not mutilation.
No, they
You know,
don't. No, they don't say that. They just say that male genital mutilation. Oh, that's not as bad, so we don't need to
how
talk
about
about that.
how about I wouldn't touch an uncut dick.
Oh
yeah.
God.
How about that? Like,
How how about you're the father?
you are the father.
One person unilaterally decides whether or not you assume parental responsibilities. Women can't understand that because they don't experience it.
Yeah.
Barring, being locked in the basement of your cult leader's basement, well, barring being locked in your cult leader's basement and forced to give birth,
Yeah, or
every
Joseph
single
Fritzl
woman has
or whatever.
chosen
Yeah.
to give birth.
Yeah. No,
Can't
you
say that as a man. Every single woman has chosen to assume parental responsibilities. Men don't get that choice.
there's no such thing as accidental motherhood.
And
There
there's
are
no
accidental.
such thing as voluntary fatherhood.
Yeah, no. It's completely involuntary.
Yeah. So what about another one? You know that woman who mounted you while you were passed out drunk on a sofa? She's charged you with rape.
High five.
High five. Okay, let's banana though.
All right.
Girls don't play sports, they cook.
Oh,
I've never heard that even once in my life. Not even from crazy conservative people. There has never been a single person in my life who has said that ever. I where are they getting this stuff? I want to know where they're getting this stuff.
well, number one, cooking is a skill that everybody should know. Everybody
Yeah.
should know how to cook. And on top of that, if you want to be a stay-at-home wife and or mother, yeah, cooking is your job, right? Unless you're one of the freaking housewives of Orange County, right? Who can afford, to get her nails done, $600 a month on her nails and $800 a month on her freaking hair extensions and all of that because, the guy she's married is like super, super fucking rich and she has a staff of people to cook and clean for her, right? Unless you're that person, right? If you want to be a stay-at-home wife and mother, you need to fucking earn your keep because, yeah, no, you don't get a pay stub and a tax bill, but your man is going out and working his ass off, and he comes home and he shares his pay equitably with you. That is not being unpaid. That's not unpaid labor, right? He's paying your share of the mortgage. He's paying your share of the electricity and the cable bill and the internet and the phone. He's paying for all of your clothes and cosmetics and toiletries and personal items. He's paying for all of that, right? If he deducted the cost of all of that, right, would he end up owing you money or would you end up owing him? And I guarantee you, if you don't cook, you're going to end up owing him.
Well, the way I see it, if you're going to be a stay-at-home mom and your husband's going to be out there working and he's bringing home the bacon or whatever, basically you working on the house is essentially your payment to him because he can't be home to do it. And it just seems like the natural thing that if he's going to be paying for you to have this house, for you to have all this food, for you to have all this nice stuff, that you should keep that stuff up. You should clean it, you should cook, and you should do all this stuff, because if you don't, then you're just putting everything that he's giving you to waste.
Yeah, and you're getting all this shit for free, right? So, you need to contribute in some other way other than money. Because if you had to buy all of that stuff from him, right? If you had to pay for it, how many hours a day would you be working outside?
No kidding.
Right? So yeah, no, I'm sorry, and that's half the kids' expenses too, right? So half of the hockey lessons and the ballet lessons, and half of the cost of feeding them, and half of the cost of clothing them, because they're half yours, right? So you're half responsible. So if he's paying for you and the kids, right? You need to be fucking earning that money. I'm sorry, you do, right? And like this whole bullshit with, women's domestic labor is unpaid. Yeah, fuck that. Fuck that. Living for free, being able to live without having a job is not being unpaid.
I don't understand that logic. Being paid to take care of your own house. It's like, it's your house. It's your life. You shouldn't get paid for cleaning a plate that you just dirtied. You shouldn't get paid for sweeping a floor that you just made that you just made dirty. You shouldn't get paid for washing your own freaking underwear.
Yeah, no. It's like if you were living on your own, lady, right? Who's gonna pay you to vacuum your own fucking floors? Who's paying you for that? Nobody.
The government.
Like I don't get it. If he didn't have you to do it, he'd have to do it, and who'd be paying him? Nobody. Right? Like it blows my fucking mind that like this is even an argument. Unpaid domestic labor. No. The only domestic labor that's unpaid is if you live alone and you look after yourself in your own home, right? If you are, part of a partnership where one partner is earning more than the other, and you share the expenses and you share in all of the finances equally, right? You both have equal access to the big pool of money, right? And you both share in the financial decisions, then you are getting paid. You are. And you know what? You should fucking cook him a steak and give him a blowjob. If you're willing to do that, because like women aren't willing to do that for men. They're not. So
okay.
Fucking hell. But yeah, and women don't play sports. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. When young women drop out of sports, that's when it's at around age 13. That's about when they start dropping out of competitive chess and other highly competitive things, and they start just working out on a treadmill or an elliptical trainer, or like doing spin classes or yoga or something else. And it's not because they don't want to look too muscly. A lot of women really, really like looking kind of ripped, and a lot of men actually sort of idealized the Sarah Connor from Terminator 2. That physique that she had, where she was like so ripped, she was like absolutely just sculpted, right? But women get out of competitive sports at puberty, because that's when they get the hit of estrogen. And estrogen is like, no, I don't really feel like taking risks now. I'm kind of a little bit worried about walking alone at night. Now, I'm not, and I really want to concentrate on other things, like giving myself high mate value, and being in competitive sports doesn't do that for me. And that's when boys at puberty get the hit of testosterone. They're like, I'm totally interested in things that'll give me high mate value, like competitive sports. So, I'm sorry, estrogen. It's the hormone that will, dominate your life. Just deal with it. Get over it. Just learn to live with it, ladies.
But Karen, biology doesn't exist. Biology is a social construct.
Oh, right. There actually was someone on the video I uploaded today of me in the men's washroom in Toronto at GG&TO, that he said, somebody said, what are you doing in the men's washroom? And Furious Fat Man said, she was peeing standing up, and yes, it's huge. And so, yeah, no, which made me laugh, but yeah. So yeah, I guess, I don't know. I was never one for competitive sports at all, though.
Banana.
Banana. Okay, Allison. God damn it.
Shame if you didn't go back to work after mat leave because too many smart, ambitious women are just moms.
Uh-huh.
Yeah? What's your point
I
here?
don't even know what to say to that one. I don't even know what to say to that one.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you're like, yeah, no, it's totally fine being a stay-at-home mom. Simone de Beauvoir was like a total cunt for suggesting that women shouldn't be authorized to do that because if they were given the choice, too many women would take it. Yeah, no, that you can't say that's okay, right? You can't say being a stay-at-home mom is okay because that's it's too many smart, intelligent women, will be wasting their lives being a mom. But at the same time, they'll complain about people saying, "What, you're going back to work so soon?"
Okay. This is something that I would see a feminist saying to women.
Yeah.
So now what feminists in the past have said to women is now evidence of patriarchy.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty typical.
Oh, it's not just what feminists of the past
I
say.
want you to move the plant to the right side of the room. The plant is in the right side of the room. That must have been done by patriarchy. Now move it to the left side of the room. The plant is in the left side of the room. That must have been patriarchy because I don't like it. I feel oppressed by the plant being in the left side of the room. Move it to the right side. It's like endless.
No, it's literally like that interview, and God, I wish I had fucking bookmarked it. It was somebody was interviewing Gloria Steinem about 10 years ago, and asked her if women today were still oppressed, and she said, "Oh, they're more oppressed than ever." And then she started listing off all these things that are oppressing women today, more than they were being oppressed back in the 1940s, right? Things like, oh, the work-life balance and struggling to balance work and kids and elder care and all of these things, and struggling in the workplace with the hierarchies and the competition and all of these things, so essentially she was saying women are now more oppressed than ever as a direct result of the things that feminism has given them.
Yeah, I was just about to say that exact same thing. It's like, that they're oppressed from having to balance work and children, but it's like, well, who told them that they needed to have everything? Who told women that they would only feel fulfilled if they had a career and children? Like, who's been shoving that down our throats for the past 40 years? It certainly hasn't been men.
Yeah.
It certainly hasn't been this imaginary patriarchy.
Well, and her solution needs more feminism, right? And I'm like, what?
Give women more of the thing that's making them depressed.
And then you have this poor woman, I forget who it was. She wrote sort of an open letter to young women in university. I fucking wish I could remember her name. Somebody in the comments will know it. But she wrote this sort of to young women in university open letter for the Time magazine or something like that, right? Newsweek or whatever, right? Essentially that you can't have it all, right? And that trying to have it all just means that you just don't have enough of anything to be happy, right? And so you're not going to be able to. And so what she recommended was go to university, right? Take your 4-year degree. If 2 years into it you meet the man of your dreams, marry him. Quit school in the middle. Have your kids when you're young and your body is perfect for it, right? And your eggs aren't stale, right? And you're not going to have kids with Down syndrome. Go ahead and do that. Then pick up your education when your kids are in school, right? And go fresh into the workforce at age 30 or 35, right? And start your career then. You won't get as far as the average man. You just won't, and that's okay, right? But if you arrange your life this way, then it won't be like you graduated, you started a career, right? Then you took a 5-year break out of your career. Now you're coming back and you can't get hired, and you have to take another 2 years of school just to update and all of this. It's not so much time wasted. It's, this is what you should be. This is the trajectory that your life is, ideally would take, right, if you were being given good advice by somebody who actually cares about you, right? You have your kids when your body is young and resilient, when you are young and have the energy to deal with them, when your eggs are not stale as fuck, right, and gonna fuck over your kids. You get married when your man is still attainable because he's maybe still in school, right, but he's got future prospects, right? And when men are more interested in marrying because men hit their peak of being interested in getting married someday when they're about 22 years old, and then it's all downhill from there, and they're like, yeah, no, fuck this shit, right? So essentially, this just learn how to compromise with reality, ladies. This is what your mother should have told you, right? This is the advice your mother should have given you. And she got completely fucking blasted by feminists. She was like, this is the way that you can have the best of everything, right? But you can't have it all.
Well,
And
there's an alternative too. I guess got to mute Karen because there's the echoes an issue, but you could also swallow whatever strange pride it is that causes women to not want to support a man and have a house husband.
That would be interesting, you know. Like I know that there are people out there, like Stefan Molyneux is technically a stay-at-home dad, right? But I have to wonder how happy his wife would be with him if he wasn't this sort of bigger, larger-than-life internet personality with high status, getting things done, you know, lots of people who admire him and all of those things, right? If he wasn't, and bringing in money as well, right? If he wasn't able to do that. Another one would be there was a governor, a female governor who's in the States whose husband is a stay-at-home dad, but he works from home as a consultant for like copious amounts of money, right? So he's still maintaining an independent income, and he's still maintaining a certain amount of social cachet, right? And
yeah,
so
well, the thing is,
things seem to work, but I don't know whether...
I mean, there was a social change to accept the idea of a woman who's idle in the house, because, I mean, even if you look at the religious texts, the idea that women should be idle was sort of frowned on. So, you know, it might be, and for the most part, you know, it's not necessarily so that the women are necessarily idle in the home, but the idea of the 50s housewife was actually very, very recent, and very limited in scope. Prior to that, women worked and have worked throughout all of human history. So, I mean, if people can accept a woman not working, maybe we can evolve to accept that of men too.
Maybe.
Because you know, if you look at any traditional culture, women not working is not acceptable.
But that would require a certain amount of change of like a certain degree of selflessness being kind of conditioned into women, because it's not just that she has to look after herself; it's also that she has to look after herself and others. And
well, I mean, that's something that women have done throughout history as well, so it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
Well, but those were in times of necessity, right? If it's
well, it was just in times of period. Like necessity was all times pretty much prior to economic prosperity. So it's like, you know, it's like, and women of that time would take pride in the necessity.
Yes.
They were part of being necessary to their families.
They were the thing that made a house into a home. They were the thing that made everything run within that home. I mean, often managing a household was like managing a company because, you know, in the sort of the oikos of Greece, right, the sort of extended, the large family home, you would have one woman who would be in charge of everything, hiring and firing of servants, the choosing of slaves to serve the household, you know, what guests were welcome in the house, what gifts would be given to those guests when they came, all of like this was her domain. It was her business. She was essentially running a business when she was running the household, and she was the CEO. If she wanted a new wing added to the house, she'd just tell her mom, her husband, okay, you're going to go out and get the funds that I need to have this new wing, and you're going to make it happen because this is my domain here, and you exist to serve this domain, right?
Well, I mean, if you look at the economics, I forget what is by. There was some question over who ultimately is in charge of this situation. Economics was like a Greek text written by a Greek philosopher a long time ago. I would have to go back in my records to figure out who exactly wrote it, because I'm terrible with names. But there was like it essentially talked about or went over an older Greek man who was basically giving his 14-year-old wife the ropes about what her duties and expectations were. And it was interesting to read, because if you imagine this 30-year-old Greek guy with this 15-year-old girl, and the first thing that he does when he gets her in at the house is to tell her, all right, so this is how this business is going to be run.
Yeah.
It's a sort of
the manager.
Yeah, you're going to be the manager, and you're going to make sure that everything runs well and smoothly. And I hope that you do that so that I don't have to get involved in too much. And then she would do that, and he would attend to his own affairs. And but I mean, it's still a 14-year-old girl. Like, she's not going to be necessarily dominant over a 30-year-old guy. And then there's also some, implication that he might have been manipulating her by saying, "Oh yes, you have all the agency here, so you got to take care of me." So it was an interesting read.
I don't know about that. I think it's essentially like the role of a wife at that time in that class, in that place, was that, I mean, she was the manager. She did manage affairs. The man wasn't supposed to know where the towels were kept. He had no need to know. He had servants and slaves and a wife who knew where the towels are. His job was to go out in the public sphere. Her job was to remain running things in the household and making sure that everything, the budget was kept, that that they weren't overspending, that everybody had good nutrition, that everybody was, paid on time, all of those things, right? So, I mean, and 14 or 15 years old at that time isn't really that old. I mean, that young, rather. It's not really. You would have maybe been expected to be able to take the reins of adulthood prior to that age.
No, definitely. But I think we need to banana, because I don't want to be here forever.
Oh.
That you are a grown girl, you need to be home before dark.
How old is the person being told that? This is like a fire hose of shit situation again, isn't it?
Okay, let me just back it up, because
That's good. You don't have to back it up further.
Now that you are a grown girl, you need to be home before dark.
Yeah.
Now that you're a grown girl, you need to be home before dark? So what, you're letting your kids run around after dark?
I'm confused, because whenever I was a kid and I went out to run around and play with my friends in the neighborhood, my mom would always tell me, be back before the streetlights come on. Yeah. So I don't understand where that's coming from. Oh, you're a grown woman now, so be back before dark. I was told to be back before dark before I was a grown woman. And
well, maybe this is from, like, sort of memories from India or Pakistan or wherever. I can absolutely see that, because you sort of, unless you're living in a pedophile hysteria culture, you're not necessarily seeing your kids as being particularly vulnerable when they're like 8 years old, to all kinds of, like, really horrific shit that can happen to them. But you are going to worry when your daughter, starts attracting the opposite sex. Not just that she's going to be victimized by somebody jumping out of the bushes or whatever, but that she's also maybe just going to be the victim of her own bad judgment and engage in sexual activities that you don't think that she's ready for, right? So there is this feeling, I think, with parents that there's less to worry about pre-puberty with kids being out after dark than there is once they've hit puberty. And I think that this is a worry for parents of boys as well, right? That the last thing that you want your boy to do is, ruin his life by, making a mistake and knocking up some girl, right? So, I mean, it really is just like your body is mature, but you don't have adequate judgment yet. And because your body is mature, right, and your hormones are raging, you may make bad decisions, have sex when I don't think that you should, or or put yourself in situations where you might be victimized or whatever. I think that this is, I mean, maybe it's a more traditional cultural thing, but yeah, no, generally the older your kids get here in the West, the later they're allowed to stay out. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little.
I do wonder though, if oh geez, I'm echoing like bad.
Allison,
okay.
Mute.
I do wonder though if like the maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? The root maybe of feminist fear-mongering comes from playing off of that natural worry that parents have for their daughters, like worrying that now that she's hit puberty that she's going to start attracting the opposite sex. Like I wonder if all that, if that fear-mongering has its roots in that, of feminists playing off that, of taking the good intentions and the worry of parents and shoving all these scary statistics in their faces as a way of fear-mongering them into worshiping the Church of Feminism as it were.
I think that's probably that they do tend to really exploit these sort of traditional attitudes. They exploit all of our instincts of protectiveness towards women and all of those things. So yeah, no, it would not surprise me if the way feminists talk and the things are actually tapping into this sort of attitude on the part of parents that they don't want their daughters to make a mistake, whether that mistake is, sort of you go to the freaking clinic and they give you the pamphlet like on The Simpsons, so you've ruined your life, right? Because you're pregnant at age 15, right? Or whether it's you make a mistake, trust the wrong guy, and he does something bad to you, or whatever, right? That and I think that parents tend to realize that during puberty their kids' judgment is, I mean, it's not even that they don't have the judgment of adults. They actually have worse judgment than they did before they hit puberty, because of the interference of all of those hormones, right? So they're really making decisions on an emotional level. They're really prone to fucking up, more so than when they were 10, and more so than they will be when they're 20 or 25, right? So you sort of have this attitude that kids who are teenagers, whose bodies are physically mature, but whose hormones are raging out of control and whose brains aren't fully developed, probably we need to keep a closer eye on our children at that age to try and prevent them from fucking up, right?
Yeah, and then feminists take that idea of keeping an eye on them and extrapolate it to be like, oh, you got to be extra careful with the girls because rape culture and
yeah, and you have to be extra careful with the boys because you got to teach them not to rape, right?
Oh God, that just pisses me off. That phrase just makes me just want to.
Oh yeah,
I hate that phrase.
All
Rape
right.
culture.
Rape culture. Also, banana.
Triggered.
Triggered. All right, banana.
Your opinions are too aggressive.
See, this right here, this is one of those phrases that just sets me off, because it's like they're saying that just because you're a woman with an opinion, everyone's going to think you're a bitch. And it's like, no, women with opinions aren't considered bitches. Women who, spout off their opinions in a bitchy way are bitches. It's not, no one's going to get mad at you and call you a bitch for having an opinion. But if you're, being all condescending with your opinion, that's when people are going to call you a bitch.
Well, not just that. I mean, look at the episodes, the 2 episodes of the Big Questions where they had Kate Smurthwaite, facing off against Milo, and she's interrupting constantly. She's looking at him with absolute disdain. She's being a complete fucking cunt, right? And femterrupting, and and he can't get a word in edgewise. He can't finish a fucking sentence, right, without her interrupting him. And and then she accuses him of essentially being a misogynist because he's just like, yeah, no. I mean, even look at Hillary. Did you see the Hillary Bernie thing? Where they were in a debate, and there's a clip of it. It's only about like 20 seconds long on YouTube. Clip went viral, and everybody's calling Bernie Sanders a sexist and a misogynist now. All of Hillary's supporters. Right? But here's what happened. He was asked a question. He started to answer it. She interrupted him. He said, "Excuse me, I'm talking here." Right? And then she continued to interrupt him. Right? And he kept drawing attention to the fact that, you haven't allowed me to speak. Can I please finish what I'm saying? Right? And apparently, him doing that is him being sexist against Hillary.
Because not letting a woman have complete control over the whole situation at all times is sexist.
Yes.
Yes. And that's some entitlement.
Calling her a bitch, right, means we're only criticizing her for being a woman with an opinion, not a woman who interrupts constantly, not a woman who fucking won't let anybody else speak, not a woman who won't wait her turn, not a woman who is like completely entitled and cunty. No. It's just because she's a woman with an opinion.
Well, I mean, it's like all this feminist talk going on lately about how women should be allowed to speak first and how it's wrong for a man to interrupt a woman. I mean, it's no wonder that women think that they should be allowed to speak whenever they want to, whenever they're being fed all this nonsense like, oh, well, your opinion matters more because you have a vagina. Well, yeah, they're gonna just stand there and spout off whatever they want, whenever they want, regardless of what the man's saying, whenever they're being fed this garbage. So,
it reminds me of Suey Park and Josh Zepps. Do you remember that? When she's like, "You just call my opinion stupid."
Oh God, yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, so at one point, he was saying something, and she tries to interrupt him. And he says, "Excuse me, I just want to finish my thought," right, or something like that. And he muted her, right, so that she couldn't interrupt. And then when he finished his thought. When he unmuted her, she started talking about, and I just think like it's just absolutely like, men think that they can just like interrupt me constantly, and and the men are so logical and women are just more emotional and blah blah blah, and so they think they have the right to interrupt me constantly. You were the one who was interrupting, you stupid bitch.
Yeah, and she's kind of proving his point by getting all offended and emotional at him muting her. If she was trying to prove that women aren't, run by their emotions, she would have just been like, okay, yeah, no big deal, finish your thought. Instead, she got all emotional about it. Was like, oh my God, it's misogyny. You interrupted me. Men are yeah.
Like, yeah, no, and like she's literally calling him trying to finish a thought when it was his turn to speak and not allowing her to interrupt him, right? She's describing that as him talking over her and interrupting her.
You didn't allow me to interrupt. Misogyny!
Not just misogyny. Man-interrupting. That's man-interrupting.
And mansplaining, yeah.
Oh, God. So.
Man-interrupting. God, how many different freaking stupid buzzwords like that are they going to come up with before people start realizing they're actually being sexist?
I think anything that they put man to, any portmanteau that they put man to, you just put femme. So femme-interrupting, femme-splaining, femme-spreading, okay, femme-slamming, right? So all of it, just go with it, and just call them when they do it, and just call it what it is. Stop femsplaining to me, please. Yeah.
But that doesn't work because women aren't systematically oppressed.
Oh.
Or women are systematically oppressed and men aren't. Yeah.
Banana.
Fucking hell. God. Allison.
I left and I came back and you're still on the same damn woman.
We were just going with it.
That's for girls. You can just marry rich. Great.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, not every woman can marry rich, but you got a better chance than the average guy. So.
Oh, indeed you do. And that's an advantage that women have. Just like the fact that women, for every dollar that a woman spends, she only had to earn 73 cents of it.
Oh, that's good.
Man has to earn the full dollar. You only have to earn 73 cents.
No, he doesn't have to earn the whole dollar. He has to earn $1.20 of it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Every dollar he spends.
Well, I think that because it's equal spending, so he has to earn 27 cents for her.
Yeah, so he earns his dollar plus her 27 cents.
Yeah, but he still has to earn $1 or spend $1.
Yeah, so for every dollar he spends, he has to earn $1.27.
Yeah, but technically, the thing is, it's a sort of like a cutoff, right? If he spends $1, he had to earn that full dollar, but he had to, in addition, earn the 27 cents that she's going to spend because she only needs to earn 73 cents to spend $1.
Yeah.
But in terms of his own spending, he still has to earn $1 to spend $1, whereas she.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
She, in terms of her spending, only has to earn 73 cents to spend $1.
Yeah, and honestly, you want to look at
she's oppressed.
Yeah, no. How can the people who are oppressed be the ones that 80% of marketing is targeted towards? That 80% of floor space in department stores and shopping malls are targeted towards? Go to any mall and have a look around and see. There will be probably 8 out of 10 clothing stores will be just for women, and the other 2 out of 10 will be half women, half men. There might be one out of 10 will be for men only, like Tip Top Tailors or Moores or the cheap suit store, International Clothiers, right? But most of, even going into a shoe store, right? 3/4 of the wall space and all of the center island space is devoted to women's shoes, and then 1/4 of the wall space is the 18 or so pairs of men's shoes that they offer, right? So I mean, you're looking at, it's not just the money that women spend; it's the money spent on women. 75 to 80% of the money spent on personal items in the West are spent on women. Whether they're spent by women or spent by men, those dollars are spent for products and services for women, right? So how can the people who enjoy 80% of the market for luxury personal items, clothing, fashion, accessories, all of those things, 50% of the market for TVs, computers, gadgets, homes, cars, right? How can they be oppressed? How can the people that are the biggest consumers be the oppressed demographic? Just because they're not earning the money that they're spending or that's being spent on them? How the fuck does that work?
Well, that seems like that would be an advantage.
The plantation owner wasn't actually in the fields picking the cotton, was he?
Banana.
God damn it. Okay.
Great. Just another angry feminist.
Yes!
Yes! Angry over nothing. Absolutely butt-fuck nothing.
Well, I mean, if you don't want that stereotype to be, so heavily propagated, maybe the freaking moderate feminists who don't have all these crazy ideas should speak up and should speak out against these feminists, but they don't. All they do is say no true Scotsman and run away. They don't say anything against these women. They just claim they're not real feminists.
Well, they spend more time attacking the messenger.
Yeah, it's like,
oh,
you shouldn't be treating these women like they's real feminists because they's not real feminists. It's like, well, then why don't you say something? Why, if you freaking minority, or not minority, if you freaking moderate feminists are actually the majority, like you claim you are, why aren't you doing anything about these crazy bitches? Why are you just letting them run your movement? Why are you letting them run amok and just do whatever they want if they are the minority like you say they are? And that's what makes me think they're not the minority. Because if they were, they'd be easier to deal with, wouldn't they? But
okay, let me say something because I haven't said a lot today. Okay, when you use something that is like when you use a technique that's right out of all kinds of propaganda to demonize a group of people throughout history, namely when you use the terms privileged, the idea that one group has an unfair advantage over another has been used throughout history to justify violence against that group. If you're going to engage in hate speech, like using the term privileged or using the term oppressor, and you don't have your ducks in a row in terms of the actual statistics, you're going to use that, or even you aren't even applying logic. If you're going to use that, prepare to be called angry. And that's the least, that's like the most polite thing that people will say about you when you're engaging in hate speech against a group of people, is that you're angry. And more accurately, you are a freaking dishonest ideologue who is promoting violence. You're not just angry, you're outright malevolent.
Well, I just want to say, like, essentially what feminists need to do, if there are moderate feminists out there, what they need to do is they do not need, we are so fucking sick of, well, those people aren't real feminists, or they're not my kind of feminists. Why don't you spend some time picking apart? Why don't I ever see Lacey Green or, you know, Anita Sarkeesian or, you know, whoever, right, who says, oh, feminism isn't hating men, right? Why don't we ever see them saying, okay, here's what this person says about men, and here's where they're wrong, and here's where they're wrong, and here's where they're wrong, and here's my counter argument to that, and here's where I think that they're wrong, and here's where I think that they're wrong, and here's my, like, why don't they ever give, like, Ceara did a video, Justin Dennis, right? Just like, was it yesterday or today or the other day?
I'm not sure when it was. I've been working, so
yeah,
days kind of run together.
It was your most recent video, I think.
Yeah,
right?
it was.
Justin Dennis, who's, you know, essentially feminists don't hate men. He's saying feminists don't hate men. Okay, there are feminists who hate men, but those aren't, you know, oh, they're the minority or blah, 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 right? Never, ever, ever does he actually take what those feminists say and deconstruct it the way he deconstructs the accusation that feminists hate men, right? So he gets the accusation from an MRA that feminists hate men, and he's willing to attack that in a long video, longish video for a feminist, right? And take it all apart, you know, and just like dismantle it and parse it and like tell, you know, here's where you're wrong, here's where you're wrong, here's where you're wrong, here's where you got it wrong, right? Why doesn't he go after, or she, I don't fucking know, go after one of these feminists that we're pointing to and say, you know, and post a piece of their writing, post a video that they've made, and do an in-depth critique, right, of that, and say, here's where she's wrong, here's where she's wrong, here's where she got it wrong, here's where she shows that she's a misandrist, here's this, this, that, and the other, right? No, they will never, ever fucking do that, right? They will always try to convince the messenger that, oh, you're attacking feminists for no reason. They will never actually go and dig into the writings of the feminists that we're talking about and pick them apart, right? Why don't they do that? They'll just say, oh, those are the crazies. Oh, those are the radicals. Oh, I don't believe those things, right? And that's the end of it. Yeah, not fucking good enough.
Well,
would
yeah,
have to-
especially since, I mean,
Sorry.
look at it this way. Feminism is an ideology, so it has a system of beliefs, even though they deny it up, down, and sideways. And then I just ask whatever feminist is denying it, so do you believe that women are oppressed by men? And this is a fundamental belief. One of the fundamental beliefs that women or feminists have is that societies should be judged by their treatment of women. That's fundamental, the very beginning of feminism. But this other one is that men oppress women. Just categorically, all across the board, men oppress women. And all feminists have that belief to some degree. And I dare any feminist, a self-identified feminist, to say to other feminists that they don't actually believe that, and see what happens. Because you will be treated as a apostate. You will be treated as badly as we are treated if you say that.
Yeah, no, the only difference with feminists is whether they think the oppression is intentional or unintentional.
Yeah, and I don't even know how you can assume unintentional oppression, but regardless.
Yeah.
So feminists have these beliefs. So it's an ideology. It's not just advocacy for equal rights for women. That's women's rights advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
Feminism is an ideology about, or an idea or a theory about how inequality came about. And I got that from someone, I think one of the moderators from Men's Rights Reddit.
Yeah.
It encapsulates it perfectly. Feminism isn't just asserting that women deserve equal rights. It's also asserting a reason why women don't have them, with the assumption that women don't have them. So one, it asserts why women don't have them, and two, it asserts that women do not have them, while saying, if you say, oh, well, what rights do women don't have, that is actually oppression of feminists to say that.
Yeah, yeah.
So feminism is an ideology. It's not an action. It's a belief system.
Yeah, no.
Women's rights advocacy is an action. So if you were to turn around and say, oh, men's rights activists have to answer for other men's rights activists, that's like saying runners have to answer for other runners.
Yeah.
Just because we engage in the same activity does not mean we believe in the same ideology.
Yeah.
So, you know, if a runner goes out and stabs another person, you can't say, well, you're a runner. Answer for that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love it. I love it too how when they make the claim that feminism is the advocacy for women's rights on the basis of political, social, and economic equality to men. And then you ask them, what rights do men have in the Western world that women don't, right? And then they say that's derailing.
Well, when I ask feminists that question, what rights do men have that women don't, usually their go-to response is reproductive rights. They claim that men have all the reproductive rights, even though they don't. Then they go and claim that there's this glass ceiling. They claim that women don't have the same rights, you know, in the workplace as men. Like women don't have the right to be listened to and taken seriously, and blah blah blah. And then and then the third one is always the pay gap. It's always the pay gap. That's always the third thing. They always mention the pay gap. Women don't have the right to be.
The right to equal pay by statute. There is a piece of federal legislation in every Western country mandating that women get equal pay for equal work. If they don't exercise their access to that right, then that's on them, right? They have the right to equal pay, right? If they choose not to sue when they're paid unequally, too fucking bad.
Well, Lacey Green, in her video about Republicans, actually tried to claim, oh yeah, well, women have equal rights to pay on paper, but it's not actually, you know, enforced, even though she's got no proof of that.
Men don't even have equal rights on paper.
Sorry?
Well, men don't even have equal rights on paper.
No, men don't have equal rights on paper. If you look at something like, because Ceara, are you in Canada?
No.
Okay. In Canada, we have something called the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's our Constitution, right? It was brought in the 80s under the Constitution Act. That was when we got our Constitution, was in the 1980s, right? But our Charter of Rights and Freedoms protects every citizen of Canada from discrimination on the basis of sex, you know, religion, creed, race, class, blah, 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 disability, all of this other stuff, right? Okay. Then there's a subsection directly under that saying that essentially that any programs or actions taken to mitigate historical disadvantage are exempt from this rule. Okay? So what that means is that if you've been designated a historically disadvantaged class, so if you're a woman, if you're Muslim, if you're Aboriginal, if you're black, if whatever, you are considered to be historically disadvantaged, and therefore the government and private corporations can discriminate against people who are the opposite of you, people who are Christians, or people who are white, or people who are men, or people who are, straight, or whatever, right? They can
people. Those
right?
people aren't people. What are you?
I know. So essentially, what you have, okay, is you have, starting in the 80s, this guarantee of equal rights and protections, followed by a disclaimer saying, yeah, no, except some of us are more equal than others, and then after that, you have this huge, massive body of case law, right, where a woman sued her company over this, a woman sued over that, a woman sued over this, a woman sued over that, right? Okay, and she sued on the basis that women were historically disadvantaged, right? And so every positive ruling, every time a woman won such a lawsuit, it got added to the body of case law, to the point now where we're actually seeing institutionalized systemic discrimination against men because they are men, right? It's blatant. It's perfectly legal to do it, right? But between that little disclaimer under that section of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, between that and the case law that goes entirely in the direction of, yes, women are oppressed, okay? You can't even get, if you want to make a case, if you want to sue the government for discriminating against you because you're a man, or a company for discriminating against you because you're a man, you don't just have that that initial disclaimer, that initial subsection to contend with. Now you have this entire body of case law that's operating in the opposite direction, saying, no, women are the ones who are oppressed. And the better off women have it, the easier it is for women to win those cases, and the bigger the body of case law, which means that it's easier to win more and more cases, right? Just by, going by precedent, right? And so as a man, if you want to sue now, you're not even going to have your lawsuit approved to go to court. It's going to be dismissed out of hand in the pre-trial phase because the entire body of case law says that women are oppressed and men are not. Even though institutionally, systemically, legislatively, right, and by statute, right, men are discriminated against, you cannot even get that into court to argue that, okay, times have changed and men actually need some assistance now. You can't even make it into a courtroom because you have that huge, gigantic blob of case law standing in your way, and it will just repel you every time.
Okay.
That whole thing just sounds like social justice in a nutshell. Like, it seems like Canada was trying, it was Canada's good intentions. They were trying to give, I guess, reparations or something for how women and minorities were treated in the past, and then, all these women came along and took advantage of it, and now the pendulum swung in the other direction. That's freaking social justice in a nutshell, taking advantage of people's good intentions to propel yourself forward.
Oh yeah, and the pendulum swung so far before anybody really noticed that now you can't even get it into a court of law. You can't even get a lawsuit into a court of law because the bulk of the case law standing in your way is so huge now that no judge is willing to even give it the time of day, right? So it's gone so far that I don't even know whether there's a possibility of actually being able to ever stand in front of a judge and say, well, it's gone so far that men are now being discriminated against. right? I don't know whether that's ever actually going to be a possibility.
Yeah, sounds like it's a lot worse in Canada than it is here in America, because at least I know personally of at least one judge in the state of Kentucky that will specifically go out and take cases where a man is being discriminated against and try to help them. Doesn't sound like you've got anything like that in Canada.
Oh yeah, no. And in California, they've got UNRWA, which is actually a very gender-neutral piece of legislation. NCFM wrote a letter to, I think it was Singapore Airlines. Singapore Airlines had a policy of making a man move to a different seat if he was.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Minor. They wrote them a very nice letter, full of beautiful, pristine legalese, saying essentially, if you continue to do this, you're in violation of UNRWA and you will be barred from landing at any California airport. So you need to rethink your policy. And they thanked them, right? They said, oh, we had no idea. Thank you so much for giving us a heads up, right? We're going to have to rethink our policy. So, but that's not the way it is in Canada. We have our equal rights legislation, but it's written directly into the legislation, into our Constitution, that some people are more equal than others.
That's awful.
And some fruits are more equal than others.
You mean bananas?
Yes.
We wish you were a boy.
Why? Oh, well, I guess he's Asian. They want someone to take care of them when they're older.
Yeah.
We wish you were a good, strong ox.
Yeah.
But instead, you're a person that we have to give resources to.
Yeah.
Wow, why can't we just get a boy? I mean, geez, this whipping stick is going to go to no use now.
Yeah. I just don't get it. I like this whole, oh, men are arbitrarily favored in Eastern Asian cultures. Yeah, no, they're not arbitrarily favored. They're favored because, particularly in a place like China with a one-child policy, but in most of these cultures, right? Your boy was your pension. If you had a boy, you have a pension, right? If you have a girl, you have a potential lead weight, right? Because if she doesn't ever get married, you're still responsible for her if she doesn't feel like, working. So, yeah, and okay, things are starting to change, right? You can read in a Chinese newspaper about elderly couples who are suing their sons for not financially supporting them, right? Every other day, another case comes through, another boy is told that he'd better fucking cough up the money to support his elderly parents, right? Okay? Just recently, just like a year or two ago, for the very first time, a woman was sued in China by her elderly parents for not visiting them, for not providing them with emotional love, affection, and support, right? And they won, right? She was ordered to go and visit her parents regularly and all of this, right? But she wasn't ordered to support them financially. She was ordered to go visit them and spend time with them.
So can we call this what it is? When she says, what did she say again? Just go back 2 seconds.
You were a boy.
I wish you were a boy. Well, let's use the actual meaning, the ancient meaning of the word boy. I wish I'd gotten a servant.
Yeah.
I wish you were a servant. I wish you were that's what boy used to mean. That's why it was an insult to black people, black men, because that's what it meant. It meant go serve me, servant. That's the other meaning of the word boy. I wish I had an annuity instead of a girl.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It's not even valuing the boy. It's just valuing the benefit he brings to his elderly parents. But banana.
Okay.
Time to send German and girls the right message. All right.
The right message. Okay. I'm just dying to know what the right message is.
This International Women's Day, what will you tell me?
I'll tell you to stop. I'll tell you to stop judging your worth on arbitrary characteristics. That's what I'll tell you.
I'll tell you to pull up your big girl pants and fucking get on with it.
I'm going to tell you that you're not a victim. You're not a victim of anything. And also, how are you going to be lifted up from being unable to lift yourself?
Mm.
How is that even fucking possible?
Well, okay, see, because if I jump up in the air and at the same time I like kind of flap my arms, I'll stay up.
I don't think so. I'm severely doubtful of that. But it's like they teach girls this shit. And I do a lot of reading into, aspects of management and dealing with psychological stuff in order to achieve and stuff like that. In those books, they lay it right out. The idea that you are not responsible for the things that happen in your life is like it is basically the universal solvent for any kind of achievement.
Oh, it's
period.
like a poison dart.
It's like a poison. So essentially what they're doing is they're teaching girls to destroy their own potential. This ad literally goes into little girls' brains and starts shoving a screwdriver in there. Let's just destroy that. Let's destroy that. No, you don't need that. All you need to be is a victim. And in the guise of fucking empowerment, it's like the Ministry of Goddamn Love or Ministry of Truth. This is so Orwellian. In the guise of goddamn empowerment, they are lobotomizing girls. They are disempowering them. I mean, just set aside what they're doing to boys.
Yeah.
This is what they're doing to girls. This is the disempowering bullshit that they're filling girls' heads with. The kind of psychological bullshit that prevents achievement and ensures that there will always be two classes of people in our society. Those who achieve and do, and those who just sit on their asses and whine about being hurt by the people who do.
And wanting to be lifted up.
And wanting to be lifted up. Even though, how in the fuck is lifting you up going to cure your inability to lift yourself? Like, tell a girl she can. That assumes that a girl's ability to do is predicated on what she's told by other people.
Yeah.
Well, this right here, it's the cycle that keeps feminism alive. It's what keeps these ideologues getting a paycheck. They make it seem like girls can't do on their own. So they tell you have to tell girls that they can do, otherwise girls won't do. And then at the same time, they put out this idea that girls aren't doing because there's patriarchy out there holding them down, and then feminism needs to be there to fight the patriarchy, and feminism fights the patriarchy by telling everybody that you need to lift these girls up because they can't do it on their own. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. It keeps it going. That's why they keep telling girls this stuff. They need girls to think that they can't do on their own because that gives them something to fight. That gives them something to ask people money for.
But what drives me crazy about all of this is not what we tell boys. We don't tell boys you can, right? We tell boys you have to, right? Mm-hmm. That's why boys achieve, because they're told they have to.
And at the same time, there's a huge amount. Like, when we tell them these things, we're also giving something toxic towards boys, and we're not caring about the boys who wash out.
Yeah, no, we're not. But, I mean, the whole reason why boys and men are more likely to reach those upper echelons of success is because they grew up hearing not you can, right? They grew up hearing you have to. And, yeah, or you must, or, or you'd better. That's what they heard. Girls heard, well, you can, if you want, but, it's difficult, and somebody lift you up. It's all good.
Well, here's what I see. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Janissaries in the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire would periodically essentially take the sons of Christian slaves, and then they would march them 400 miles, or a couple hundred miles, force march them. These are like 8, 9, 10-year-old boys. Force march them, and it didn't matter if a whole 80%, 60% just died and rolled off dead in a ditch. At the end of that, you got some pretty strong, pretty tough, pretty determined kids. what they're doing this is what we do to boys in our society. We put them through a metaphorical forced march of 400 miles, and we do it because we don't care if 20%.
Then we pad these girls in cotton wool and say that'll toughen you up.
Yeah, but we don't care if 20 or 30% drop down dead and roll into a ditch to rot. We don't care. That's why we are willing to put boys through this. And at the end of the day, what do we end up with? We end up with superachievers. We end up with a whole bunch of men and boys who've washed out completely, but we end up with superachievers. And then feminists look at the superachievers, notice that they're men, because we only do this process to men, because we only will allow the washouts to wash out if they're male. Yep. They look at the superachievers that are created through this forced fucking march, and they say, that's oppression against women.
And it's unearned privilege.
And it's unearned privilege. Well, you know what, feminists? If you want women to be part of those superachievers, you got to put them through the 400-mile march and then just kick their corpses into the ditch if those girls fail to achieve.
If they wash out, yeah,
just kick their fucking rotting corpses into the ditch and step the fuck over them.
Because, you know, they're not going to keep marching if they think that they can stop, right? If they think that they can stop and they'll be okay, then they're not going to keep marching, right? They only will keep marching if they know that they'll be forced to march until they're dead, and then they'll just be kicked into a ditch, right? Yeah.
But that's where the difference comes in. They're more concerned about girls' feelings than anything else. It's like we can't kick these girls to the curb if they don't achieve, because that might hurt their feelings. And they only care about little girls' feelings, though. They don't care about kicking little boys to the curb. Little boys' feelings don't matter.
Yeah,
fuck telling these girls that they can.
It's the whole fucking...
Fuck telling them that they can. Tell them that they're worthless little puss bags if they don't.
Yeah.
And see them, watch them achieve. Of course, you'll end up with a whole bunch who end up on the streets or end up in insane asylums or end up in prisons.
Yeah.
But you'll get your superachievers, I'm sure. If you tell that little girl right there with the cute little curls, you're a worthless piece of sack of shit if you don't achieve.
Yeah.
It's not you can achieve. You are a worthless sack of shit. And I will kick your fucking head into the ditch if you don't achieve.
Yes.
Watch her. She'll do big things. Because she doesn't have a choice. At least, if you had like about 10 of the same girl and you said that to 10 of them, you probably would get 5 or 6 who just wasn't able to continue at all. But you would get your superachiever. You would get your superachievers.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to sacrifice 5 or 6 girls to that. You just have to be willing to say, yeah, you know what? It's just cost of doing business that you end up on the street. Just cost of doing business that we ignore the fact you're being raped. It's cost of doing business that we don't care about the fact we cut into your genitals. Huh? Yeah. It's cost of doing business that we don't care about the fact that you might be beat by your husband. It's just the cost of doing business. It's the cost of getting you into that superachiever position, and we just can't care about those little girls who wash out of that superachiever position.
Yep.
Just fuck them. And when we master that attitude as a society, we will have superachieving girls.
Yeah, we'll have parity in CEOs, C-suite jobs, frickin' politics, all of those things. Yep.
Hey, you little maggot! What a worthless little creature you are unless you achieve.
Yeah, walk.
You're telling them every single fucking day. Walk. And guess what? You see that other little girl who's gotten bloated in the sun? That could be you if you don't walk.
Yeah.
That got morbid real fast.
Let's see if there's anything more to this.
I don't think there is. I think that's the end of it right there.
Oh, send your message to Lift Her Up. Everybody, please send a message to #LiftHerUp. And just express your sentiments about this wonderful message that we're giving to girls on International Women's Day, that that somehow women and girls are uniquely vulnerable and uniquely fragile and need to be lifted up because they're incapable of doing anything for themselves.
Well, to be honest,
anything mean you say to a girl is going to completely crush her spirit and all of that. Yeah, no,
she's absolutely strong, fragile flower.
Mm.
No, it's like it's the double think is just incredible. But when I say this, I don't actually think the way that we raise boys is necessarily the extreme way that we do this is necessarily a good thing.
No.
And that we should do that to girls. This is hyperbole to make a point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It might actually be that we would see more achievement if we balanced everything out. And we didn't say to anyone that they are capable of anything without hard work, but we also didn't say to anyone, you know, you're useless if you don't achieve. You know, that can be a great motivator, but it's not necessarily the best motivator. We might find actually better ways of motivating people to achieve if we embrace a solution that sort of evolves it sort of avoids the pitfalls of both scenarios.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there are pitfalls in both scenarios. You're teaching girls to you're basically lobotomizing girls when you teach them to exteriorize everything and see everything as a result of some action or force acting upon them. But you're also damaging boys when you say that everything is their personal failing. And you amplify that when you say, oh, you have privilege, oh, you have patriarchy holding you up, lifting you up. So if you fail, you really, really failed. You failed despite being helped.
Mm.
But it's like this is toxic on both ends. And we could do better.
Well, I don't know how true it is, but my grandma used to tell me all the time growing up that the reason that Jewish people were always so successful is because they would only let their people do a job that they actually wanted to do, because people will put more effort towards something that they love doing rather than putting their energy towards something that they're just doing out of necessity. Just to try to make someone else happy. If they do what makes them happy, they'll work harder and they'll do better in their lives if they're trying to make themselves happy versus trying to make everybody else happy. I don't know how true it is. I don't know anything about Jewish culture, but that's what my grandma used to always tell me. That's the speech she gave me whenever she told me I needed to go to college, even though I didn't want to go. But yeah.
Yeah, it is true that kind of motivation where you think that you have to earn accomplishment and earn a sense of belonging is actually inferior motivation relative to the kind of motivation you get when you feel like you're fulfilling a life purpose, or you're feeling like you're relating to other people through what you're doing, or you just simply enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, you're following a calling that particularly appeals to you, and that means that it is when it becomes a labor of love, you have more to give to it. I think even if you're not earning money from it, or you are earning money from it, it becomes something that you're impassioned about, and keeping that passion going is easy even when times are difficult. So yeah, no, agreed.
But then, it's not always realistic to do what you want to do, because what if what you want to do won't give you any kind of life in our money-based society where you have to have money for everything? If you're passionate about doing this job, is it going to pay you enough for you to live a good life? And that's where this whole thing kind of spins out of control, because a boy might want to do this, but then he can't do that because he won't be able to live his life the way he wants to because he won't have any money. Or a girl might want to live this way, but she can't because she needs money, and she can't make any money doing that. So it's just, there's no solution. Not that I can see.
All right. Well, since we're at the end of this, I'm going to address some business, if that's okay, and I'll let Karen and Ceara respond to this afterwards if they wish.
Okay.
This is really uncomfortable for me to talk about, so I apologize, and I hope you guys will stick with me as I talk about this stuff. Okay, so there's been sort of a whispering campaign involving allegations against me, and I'd like to address some of the allegations. First of all, I was approached by someone from A Voice for Men in September of 2014 to attend the San Diego Comic-Con with another men's rights activist sympathetic artist. The proposal was to publicize our attendance as an event as men's rights activists and have the usual suspects react to that. At the time, I told said individual that it was an irresponsible idea. They thanked me for considering it and said it was worth a try to ask me, meaning that they understood that I didn't agree with it and I wouldn't be doing it. In fact, I'd paid for the tables at Calgary Expo and Saskatoon Expo 3 months before I'd even been approached by this individual about his idea. I didn't go to Calgary Expo with the intention of getting kicked out. Anyone who saw the time and effort I put into the display and booth materials would be able to recognize that instantly. I planned that booth for months, sourcing the backdrop, the display units, the podium, even a light-up space funnel. I would never have jeopardized anyone's investment, including my own, in our attendance at the Calgary Expo by not obeying the rules set forth in the contract. In fact, the decision to go to the Women in Comics panel was a spontaneous one made in conjunction with our supporters. I also specified that I would not attend any safe spaces out of respect to the people who had created them. Regardless if you think I should respect them or not, I'm not going to invade someone's safe space. So I went to a panel that said Women in Comics. Didn't say it was feminist, or it might have said it was feminist, but it did not say it was a safe space. I didn't even bring up men's rights as a discussion point. The panelists did. And I responded to that discussion point after they brought it up. I didn't go to the Calgary Expo to start shit, which is why I didn't start any shit. In fact, I went out of my way to be as polite and deferential as possible. I just didn't avoid putting up a Gamergate flag or stating my opinion after asking if I could do so to a topic someone else brought up, neither of which constitute provocation or starting shit by any reasonable measure. I'm going to pause for a sec. Do you guys want to say anything to that?
No, everything that you've said so far is like completely in line with my memory of all of the events.
Well, I wasn't there, so let me see if I got this right. So this whole thing happened at Calgary, and now people are kind of accusing you of pulling in Anita Sarkeesian, where you're saying that you like provoked an attack, and now you're crying about it. Is that kind of what they're saying you're doing?
They're essentially saying that this was some sort of weird conspiracy where it was planned beforehand.
Oh, okay.
But
so
the thing is that I didn't actually start any shit, so...
Oh, okay. Well, then they're just... whoever's accusing you of that is full of crap, so...
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's like, I honestly didn't decide I would not do that. Like, I really take it seriously when people invest in something, not to squander that.
No, but it's not just that either. Like, you wouldn't start shit because you're not the type of person to start shit. I mean, you go out of your, like, you have issues with being in large groups of people to begin with. You're not going to start shit and bring more attention towards yourself and all of it. It's not something that you would do, starting shit, like being deliberately provocative, essentially provoking Calgary Expo, pushing them until they expelled you. That's not something that you would do. It doesn't suit your personality. It doesn't fit with what you would even be capable of doing, given who you are as I know you. You wouldn't be even able to do that psychologically. So, like, there's really nothing to any of this. It's just so fucking retarded.
It just sounds like somebody's wanting to grasp at straws for something to bitch about. There's that's all that sounds like. I mean,
Okay,
Calgary Expo's in the wrong here, not you.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't do any shit there, and I went out of my way to try to be as polite as possible. The only thing I didn't not do was not put the Gamergate poster up and the Vivian stuff, like a Vivian poster. I didn't not do that. But at the panel, I chose because it looked like it would be open to discussion. It's just fucked.
Well,
anyway.
I mean, yeah, and that's not, it's not your fault that the panel wasn't open to discussion. You can't be expected to just every single panel you go to just keep your mouth shut, for fear of being censored by some crazy feminist. You can't do that. If you did that, you'd never be able to speak anywhere. So I don't personally think any of this is your fault, and I think someone is just going out of their way to try to find something bitch about. So, I mean, I listened to the recording of you and that panel talking to those feminists or whatever. They opened up the floor for discussion about men's rights activists. You asked for permission to speak. They gave you permission. You spoke. And then I guess they pulled that whole feminist thing of, I rebuke my consent. And now they're trying to, and then they threw a fit. That's... I mean, if you had actually been trying to go in there and start shit, you would have brought up, the whole men's rights thing and provoked them to begin with and said all kinds of inflammatory things. You didn't do that. And you hanging up a Gamergate sign cannot be considered starting shit. All you did was hang a sign. Offenses taken, not given. They could have taken it as you starting shit, but that's not that wasn't your intention when you hung the poster. So there's nothing to talk about here. They're literally grasping at straws.
Okay, so, and this is more uncomfortable, but there's another accusation in the Whispering campaign that HBR is intended to become a money laundering operation for my father, who is apparently a crime lord or something. I would like to address that and assure you that no, my father is not a mob don.
Fuck, really, Alison? Really? Because your dad, like, when we were in Calgary, he was, like, sitting on a lawn chair, in his fucking underpants and a wife beater, smoking a cigar, right? And going, I made him an offer, he couldn't refuse. Like, really? They're accusing you of that? What the... Your dad is, like, the sweetest guy ever. Like, particularly for, like, he's an engineer, right?
No, he's a computer scientist.
Oh, okay, that's even worse. Okay. That's even, like, normally he'd be just going, like, beep, boop, boop. Yeah, no, but he's a sweetie for a computer scientist. He's, like, one of the most personable, nice, outgoing, friendly, put up with all of our shit in his house computer scientists I've ever met. He's just a nice guy. He's just a sweetie. I can't imagine him, like, calling himself Heisenberg and saying, say my name before he opens the case of, like, freaking blue-colored methamphetamine.
See, you said that, Alison, about your dad being a mob boss, and I just pictured you and your dad surrounded by all these big mobsters busting into, like, a feminist safe space and saying, "Give me all your crayons."
Say my name.
Give me all your crayons and your fluffy pillows and your frolicking puppies.
God damn it.
No, actually, the reason why I need to pursue a sole proprietorship and then incorporation is simply because I can't afford the expenses that Honey Badger Radio has. To have them as income, I can't afford. Like, if it's just me, then it's all just income. And
yeah,
all of the expenses I can't register them as business expenses. They're just basically, they're just basically income.
It has to be a business. It has to be a business because you have business expenses. It's like me with my books. With my books, my website, all of my other stuff, right? I have to pay somebody to do my taxes because they're too complicated, particularly with the cross-border stuff between the U.S. and me, with my U.S. publisher and my books that I've written. There's just absolutely no way that I would be able to do my own taxes. I have to pay somebody to do them. And they do them in the sense that, like, now I can essentially deduct a portion of my household expenses, something like 10%, to be devoted to home office expenses. I can write off my computer. I can write off my website hosting costs. I can write off my, any travel costs if I decide to. If I decided to, I didn't fucking keep track of any of it. But to go to SFU, right? All of those things I can deduct, and so yeah, no, I can do that because this is a business, right? If it was just personal income, I wouldn't be able to do that. And all of it would be taxed at a personal level, right? And none of the costs would be factored in. And I'd be completely fucked, right? Just absolutely.
Well, you know, it just sounds like people are getting mad at you for making money for what you're doing, and it's like, well, I used to have that same thought that I didn't want to make money for this that I'm doing because it would feel like I was being disingenuous. But then, you know, a bunch of people told me, hey, you're being dumb. You know, you're putting time out of your day to provide us with this thing that you're doing, these videos you're doing. You're taking several hours out of your day to do this. You know, sticking a Patreon link in the bottom of your video, you know, isn't going to make you seem disingenuous. But you know, I was afraid of opening a Patreon for that very reason. I was afraid that people were going to think that just because I have a Patreon that I'm only doing this for money. And that's probably what people are jumping on your case about. They think, oh, this is just Alison trying to make money off of us and blah blah blah. That's not what you're doing.
Okay, well, I wanted to say something, and I'm going to put this in a sort of a different area. My husband Jonathan has been following some guys in the virtual reality and they created this really great virtual space where people could come and meet. And they had a whole bunch of fans and supporters. And a couple weeks ago, I think, they sent out an email to all their fans and supporters, you know, we just got to fold. We can't continue to do this work. And they never gave them an option, because we ran out of money, guys. Sorry, bye. They never gave their fans and supporters an option to say, hey, well, we could do memberships. We want to keep this around. We find it valuable. And in some ways, I think that's actually more irresponsible and unethical, is to not give your supporters a way of supporting you. Because
when I was first kicking around the idea of even just doing ads on my channel and setting up a PayPal account, which I never really particularly advertised or anything like that, I asked my boss, and he said, you know, do you spend any significant time on it? And I'm like, yeah. And he says, do people value what you do? And I'm like, yeah. He says, well, why are you wasting my time with stupid questions? Right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what he said, and it really brought it home to me that, you know, like, we're not charging anybody. Like, our stuff, Sierra's, Honey Badger's, mine, Allison's, none of our stuff is sitting behind a paywall. You can use ad block and deny us that, like, 4 cents per view, right? You can do that. It's not a problem, right? Our content is available for free to anybody who wants to look at it. Even the stuff that we give first to our patrons tends to, you know,
there's some behind the scenes stuff that we.
Yeah, like behind the scenes stuff, yeah. But I mean, anything that's like sort of important, that isn't just us being goofballs, right? Anything that's actually to do with advocacy, we make it public. Even if we give some people access 3 days before it goes live public, right? All of those things, right? Those are just, you know, those help us to be able to create more content that we're giving away for free, right? And nobody who's providing us Patreon donations or PayPal donations, or, you know, or turning off their ad block when they go to our videos, none of those people are being forced to do that. They're making a choice to do that because they want to, right? They want to, and it's not based on, you know, oh, these ladies are going to open up a domestic violence shelter in the next 6 months. No, because we have never promised that, right? No, it's, we want to see more of this, right? And when you look at someone like PewDiePie, who all he does is he does Let's Plays and makes goofy faces and voices, right? And the guy's raking in money from ad revenue, from, you know, sponsorships, from all kinds of just people just throwing money his way, right? How is it that people can look at him and go, like, what is he actually doing? What is he actually providing? All he's doing is entertaining people, and it's okay for him to make that money just sitting in his house in front of his computer entertaining people.
Oh no, he gets shit too. He gets shit too.
Oh yeah, but okay.
Yeah,
But,
so I mean, and the thing is that he's, like people want to pay for that. They're, that's, I think that's good, great.
yeah, me too, right? But then we shouldn't have this. We shouldn't have some, like, be held to some kind of higher standard. Like, we have to be like totally 100% pure and never spend a dollar of the money that comes in on like a freaking pack of, like, I don't know, gum or something. That's like, no. We should be living like in absolute abject poverty, right? And spend every spare dollar on, donating to this, that, and the other. No. We are creating content. People think that content is worth something. People choose to give towards it because they want to see it keep going. And frankly, if like I make decent money doing this now, right? Decent money doing this now. Not great, but decent. If I wanted to make more money, I would just go back to work 4 shifts a week, 4 4-hour shifts a week at the restaurant, and I would make more money.
Well, yeah, and if we wanted to make money, we know a really good way to do it. Pretend to be a feminist, whine about some online harassment, and link your Patreon to every single video. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we really cared that much about getting rich, that's what we'd do. We'd go under a different alias, and we'd start bitching about harassment, because that's how Anita Sarkeesian's done it. That's how Zoe Quinn's done it. That's how Brianna Wu's done it. If we really cared that much about money, that's what we'd be doing.
I would challenge anybody to look in the low bar of every single video I've done, right? Find me the one place where I've put a PayPal link or a Patreon link in the low bar of a video. It will be, when I put the PayPal link in there, it was when I announced that, sort of at the end of a video, that, okay, I've opened a PayPal account. If I put a Patreon link in the low bar, it was when I announced that, okay, I've kicked around the idea of a Patreon account and I've made one, right? I don't put those things in the low bar of every one of my videos or any of my videos. I can't be fucking arsed to do it. They're on my About page on my channel. People have to go out of their way to look for them, right?
Yeah.
People have to already want to, and I don't e-beg at the end of my videos.
Right? Yeah, I do. Well, at least Honey Badger Radio.
Yeah, Honey Badger Radio does, and I used to, like, on my outro, if you really, really like it,
yeah. Tap my Patreon. No, tap my
PayPal link. But and if you didn't like it at all, you know what you can do, right?
Fuck yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, like this is. It's so fucking frustrating. The moment, like, all money is stored labor. That's all it is. It's not some horrible mystical force, corrupting force. All it is your work put into another form that can be stored. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that I had to think long and hard about what I wanted to do. I mean, there were certain aspects, and I'll get into that, of things that sort of forced my hand. But I remember talking to Karen about how, and this is what I've noticed, that when you get to a position where you're being paid to do something, you're sort of obligated to continue to do it. Yeah. You can't just walk away whenever you want. And that's the thing. If somebody is volunteering their time for men's rights advocacy and men's issues advocacy, if they're volunteering their time, they can walk away at any point.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any skin in the game. So I had to think long and hard about whether or not I wanted to put that much skin in the game. And if I wanted to actually be paid to do this work. Because it means I can't do other work, for one, and it means that I'm obligated every day, or almost every day, to get up in the morning and do my the chores related to Honey Badger Radio.
Show up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm obligated to show up. And, you know, it's not necessarily that I don't like the obligation, but it is a choice, and it is a risk, and it is, you know, it's giving something of yourself. And when you start to make money off of something, you are obligated to continue it, which is one of the reasons why I think maybe these people who created this VR lounge that my husband really enjoyed didn't ever do that, because they wanted the option to just walk away and leave everyone flat.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm being mean when I say that, but that's not investing as much as you could, and that's not bad, because some people can only invest that much. That's fine, but it is a bigger investment once you say, okay, I'm going to take money from this, because then you can't necessarily walk away anymore, and it's an obligation, it's a choice.
Yeah, no, if you wanted to walk away from it, you'd have to shut down the Patreon. Right? Shut down all of that stuff and apologize to everybody and say, you know, like, I'm really sorry, I can't do this anymore. And essentially just like it is when it's a job, when something is a job, you're more invested in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't easily just say, you know, I'm done with this. Men's rights advocacy's got too hot. I'm just going to lay low, disappear, and I'll just work my job, because that is your job.
Yeah.
You're tied to it. I have married men's rights advocacy. I have married it. We are now husband and wife.
Yeah.
There's nowhere I'm not going to be getting away from that.
You were just cohabiting for those 11 years, but now you've taken the plunge. You've jumped over the broomstick. You've put the onion ring over each other's fingers, and
okay, so I just wanted to continue that because I want to get this off my chest. All right, so yes, my father is not a mob don. He's not the Badger Don, not a mob boss. He's not pulling any strings behind the scenes or anything. But I'm going to reveal some stuff about my situation that I actually am ashamed of. My father helps me out financially. He does so because I suffer from agoraphobia, which at its worst has basically imprisoned me in a single room in my house. Before people ask, my husband is also disabled from a series of very severe workplace accidents, and he lives with chronic pain, which limits his ability to do activity in a consistent manner that would be required from a job. All right, throughout my life, I haven't been able to work except out of my home because of my agoraphobia. And in case you're wondering, it's probably as a result of having lived through. I spent a few months in a war zone, and experienced being bombed, and I've also had some brain injuries and some other shit that I don't want to talk about, but a lot of my mental issues are probably as a result of a lot of that stuff. So I've been sort of the problem is that I don't know when things get worse, or I didn't until I went into very intensive therapy. So going out and constantly being expected to do certain things was like having the sort of Damocles over my head, because I didn't know if it was going to end up aggravating my illness. In December of 2012, I suffered a psychiatric emergency in which my agoraphobia was the worst it's ever been in my life. I was pretty much restricted to my bedroom and the bathroom, and I lost 30 pounds in a month because I couldn't eat from the nausea caused by near constant anxiety attacks. I was getting to the point where it was like I might need to be hospitalized because of that, which was, of course, terrifying. At that point, I realized I had to fight back, and I started intensive therapy to resolve my health problems. It took me 6 months to be able to leave my house without constant anxiety. During that, I remember going to the set of a TV station, which was a few hours' drive away, to promote men's issues. So I was on a live station, and fuck, that was terrifying. But I realized that if I can help bring awareness to men's issues by being public about them as a woman, then I had a duty of service to do it, so I did it. It took me a year and a half of work every day to be able to fly to Detroit and represent the media there. And it took me 2 years to do all of that travel without the fear of panic attacks. In the latter half of 2014, my father, who has supported me throughout the entire process of me trying to fight to regain my health, told me that he lost his job. I'm sorry. He asked me to start working on developing an income stream because he was worried that he would be forced by financial realities to stop supporting me. At that time, I had to make a choice. I was working just under 40 hours a week at Honey Patch Radio, and I either had to scale back significantly to find a job or start a small business in my town in a non-controversial area of business, or I had to make Honey Badger Radio my job. I decided to make Honey Badger Radio my job. Staking my livelihood on being able to sell men's rights was a risk. It was a huge risk, but I decided to take it because I didn't want to see another Earl Silverman, another man who commits suicide because he had basically no support. I still wanted to pursue my comic, however. My comic is my passion. More than anything, I've wanted to succeed as an artist and an author. After Calgary Expo, I had a resurgence of my health issues, so a lot of the stuff I wanted to address got put on the back burner, including dealing with making Honey Badger Radio a business separate from myself. From April last year to last week, I haven't been able to work on my comic. Last week, I made a promise to myself that I would do an hour a day to work on my comic before I do Honey Badger Radio work. Most days that week, I didn't get to do the full hour. A lot of it is probably how painful it was to get my modest inroads in my further future as a comics creator in the industry basically torched by what Mary Sue and Calgary Expo did. But it was also dealing with everything that HBR needs from me. 70 hours of work hours a week of needs. The administration, travel arrangements, sorting mail, getting in touch with guests, and coordinating hosts. Spending half a day building a newsletter or fighting with American airline providers who won't let a Canadian pay for an American's plane ticket, or dealing with server issues is not my passion. But I set aside my passion because this is what people want from me. They want me to build this platform. They want to raise the profile of men's rights. If I'm not going to set aside my passion to do what's right, then who will? If I'm not going to risk something that means the world to me and stand up to censorship, then who will? And there's another aspect to this whispering campaign. As much as I'm the target, you, the people listening right now, are as well. All of you who've put time and effort and resources into building and helping us build this platform. They want to destroy it. For whatever reason, the people whispering right now want to see Honey Badger Radio wither and die because reasons. They don't want to see a community of people who don't just recognize the importance of men's issues, but recognize that the buck stops with them. That if they don't step up and give what they can, no one else will. No one else is going to do this for them. No one else is going to do this for us. No one. Not the government, not the media, not the people pushing the left or the right. It's just us. It's just on us. I understand that, and I believe that you understand that too. And that's the biggest threat of all.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't even know how to really respond to that. No, yeah.
I feel very small right now.
Why?
Because that was such a big story. I feel small. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's like I think that all of that kind of needed to be said. It needed to be out there, and I would hug you, Alison, if you were here.
I'm sending you an e-hug.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think we should probably end this.
Yeah, I think you've managed to say everything that could be said about your commitment to this. So, yeah,
Thanks and God bless. Or may you be blessed by his noodly appendage.